Right, shalom, shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Waharakah Kadash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways, teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. It's going to be real quick, but it's going to hit the point. It's the book of Matthew, the 5th chapter and the 17th verse. It says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Okay, for verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled." Right? Now, what you gotta understand is that what Yahweh Shai is saying there is he come to fulfill the law and the prophecies. Alright? And you see, that's why we say that the understanding of the New Testament writings has to be rooted in the prophecies of old. And this is why we reference these prophecies as often even as the apostles did. But Christianity does not, because Christianity is ignorant of the prophecies. All right? Simply because the doctrine of Christianity does not align with the prophecies, with the eschatology. Right? The will and the purpose of the Most High as expressed in the law and the prophets is not expressed in the Christian doctrine. Now, when we go to the other translations, you can see here, even in the New Living Translation, it says, "Don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses." You see, the Lord didn't come to abolish the law. He come to bring us forgiveness of sins, but not to abolish the law. The law is going to be present in the kingdom of heaven. How do we know that? Because the prophecies say so. The prophecies tell you that we're going to keep the law. And furthermore, to that point, the Israelites are going to teach the law to the other nations. The same law that Moses brought forth. In fact, Moses himself said that we were going to return in the last days and keep the law. Okay, so again, that's a strike on Christianity, because Christianity believes the law is done away with, as in the law which is written in the Old Testament. But that's not true. Yahushua did not come to abolish the law or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. So the Messiah is going to accomplish all of the prophecies which are written in the so-called Old Testament concerning Israel and the nations. And that is for Israel to be delivered and exalted and established, and the other nations to be brought into subjection and punishment. This is repeated throughout all the prophets. Christianity wants to sell you a different narrative. Okay? Now, they like to jump to Paul, but Paul believed the narrative which is in the Old Testament. He wasn't creating a new narrative. And this is the problem. They try and use the writings of Paul, misuse the writings of Paul, to create a new narrative which is different to the old narrative. And that's a disrespect not only to the Most High, but also to the Apostle Paul, because Apostle Paul didn't ever intend to do such a thing. All right? If you understand the scriptures, then you would understand that all Paul's teachings were in line, because all the people that Paul was teaching were Israelites. As it is written, he writ to the church of Galatia and told them that Jerusalem was their mother, meaning they were Israelites. They were the sons of Israel, scattered. Paul knew exactly who it was that he was teaching and why. It's these goofy Christians that try and misconstrue. Okay? So this is when Paul was brought before the governor. Right? They were accusing him of breaking the law and teaching wayward doctrine. He said, Acts 24:14, "But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the God of my fathers, believe in all things which are written in the law and the prophets. So Paul's doctrine, which is of Yahweh Shai, was founded upon the law and the prophets, man. So when you see these guys complaining, oh, that's the Old Testament, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, because there's not supposed to be no difference between the prophecies of old and the will of the Father in the New Testament writings. If there's a difference, then there's a lack of understanding. Okay? And that's what separates the Hebrew Israelites from these Christians. We actually understand the Bible and look at it as a whole and as a complete narrative, and not a diverging narrative or divergent narrative. The new covenant did not diverge. All right. So it says, but I admit that I follow the way which they call a cult. I worship the God of our ancestors, and I firmly believe the Jewish law and everything written in the prophets. Right? So Paul knew salvation was only for the seed of Israel. But he also knew it was prophesied that you were going to get Israelites that were scattered among the nations who would be delivered. And those are the Gentiles to whom he taught. And that's why he spoke to them in the way he spoke to them. Case in point, an example is the book of Galatians, right? The goofy Christians will tell you that the book of, or the letter of Galatians was written to other nations, the seed of the other nations as the Greeks, whereas we know that the Greeks Paul was writing to were Israelites who were being called Greeks, who had been Hellenized. Now, Paul said this to them. He said, but Jerusalem, which is a free, which is the mother of us all. So when he said us all, he was including the recipients of the letter, because this is a personal letter, right? He says Jerusalem is the mother of us all. Now, is Jerusalem the mother of everyone? No, Jerusalem is the mother of the Israelites. So the Galatians were Israelites. Now, can we go back into the law and the prophets and get an understanding? So this is an example here, Hosea, the 2nd chapter, right? And Jerusalem, or Israel, Jerusalem is being called their mother. Hosea 2:2, plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, right? Neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight and her adulteries from between her breasts. This was speaking about Jerusalem, because Jerusalem had committed whoredoms, right? And the Heavenly Father is her husband, just like Holy Jerusalem is going to be a bride adorned for her husband again. But there's more. All right, if we go to the Baruch of Baruch, all right, Baruch and the 4th chapter, which if you read this, it talks about Jerusalem as being a mother. All right. Talks about the children. In fact, that's also in the book of 2nd Ezra, a crying mother. Jerusalem is considered. It says here, Paul knew that. It says this, O Jerusalem, look about thee toward the east, and behold the joy that cometh unto thee from God. Lo, thy sons come whom thou sentest away. They come gathered together from the east to the west by the word, the gospel of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of God. And this is what Paul understood. That you had Israelites that were scattered throughout the world. That is the mystery of the Gentiles. They were scattered and hidden among the nations. And through the Spirit and the power of the Lord and the gospel, they were to be returned. All right? And also, you think, yeah, you can get that also in the book of 2nd Ezra. The woman weeping. Yeah, 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter. Where Ezra encountered the woman who was mourning for the loss of her children. All right, that woman was Jerusalem. Right, so if you read second, that's just 9 from 38. It goes into this weeping woman. All right, this weeping woman was Jerusalem. I just want to get to the end. You can go and read this story for yourself, but basically, he curses the woman out, but he didn't realize that the woman was Jerusalem. Yeah, so when you read it, you go down. She turns into a city because it was really a vision, and that woman that was mourning the loss of her children was really Jerusalem. So go and read it, man. The second is just a 9th chapter from the 38th verse into chapter 10. And Paul knew of all this, right? Jerusalem is the mother of all the Israelites, right? And that's why Paul wrote it there to the Galatians, because the Galatians were part of that. They were Israelites themselves. All the letters of Paul were written to Israelites, the children of God who were scattered abroad. And Peter understood this, and that's why what's written in First Peter's is written. Okay? So if that, I'm going to say shalom.